It's absolutely astonishing how critical race theory has pervaded every institution in the federal government. And what I've discovered is that critical race theory has become, in essence, the default ideology of the federal bureaucracy and is now being weaponized against the American people.
Welcome back. I took one of those political compass tests recently, and it turns out I'm a left-leaning libertarian. I'm not surprised, but you probably are if you've been watching my videos. Truth is, I was a Democrat most of my life. I even voted for Hillary Clinton. I stopped being able to identify with the left when they began spouting all their identity politics. But at the time, I didn't know where that came from. Now, I do. Critical theory, more specifically, critical race theory. It has infected most of our institutions, even our federal ones. Last week, the Trump administration made moves to purge critical race theory from the federal government. So what is critical race theory? And what is the Trump administration doing to stop it? Let's get into it. Critical race theory, in a nutshell, is a theory that sees racism in every aspect of society. Most of the books on the matter, like White Fragility, have to redefine racism because the racism that you and I use, not that we use the definition, judging people by their race, is not good enough for them. It doesn't do the job. So they redefine it. For the critical race theorist, racism is any system that results in the disparity between peoples. And they claim that every system is racist because it was built by white supremacists to maintain power. And if you're part of that society in which was built by white supremacists, then you are also complicit in the racism, unless you're one of the people being oppressed. That's why being a victim is very cool amongst these people. In critical race theory, there are no individuals. Everyone must be understood by their race. It's the only way. And therefore, everyone's reality is different. What's true for me may not be true for you. A crazy example of this is 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 4. And I know, it sounds crazy, but let me explain. The woke are saying that 2 plus 2 equals 4 is just a white way of knowing. Nikole Hannah Jones tweeted this: using Arabic numerals to try and make a point about white Western supremacy is just so damn classic. You might think, who cares? Who's Nikole Hannah Jones? Just a Twitter troll? Actually, no. Nikole Hannah Jones is the architect of the New York Times 1619 Project, a project that claims that America was founded on racism with the sole purpose of keeping minorities oppressed, a project that has misinformed millions of people, a project that has basically caused the 2020 riots, and a project that might be taught at our public schools to our children. Or will it? Maybe, maybe not. Cristopher Rufo uncovered that critical race theory was infecting our federal government. His diligent reporting was brought to the attention of the president, who vowed to make changes. One of the changes is eliminating the 1619 Project from our school. How? The Trump administration is investigating the use of the 1619 Project, and it seems like any school that teaches the 1619 Project might lose federal funding. Thank you. Rufo's findings, however, didn't stop at the schools. The problem is much bigger than that.
I'd like to share 3 investigations that I've unleashed that show the kind of depth of this critical race theory, cult indoctrination, and the danger and destruction it can wreak. First, the Treasury Department. I broke the story on the Treasury Department, which held a seminar earlier this year from a man named Howard Ross, a diversity trainer who has billed the federal government more than $5 million over the past 15 years, conducting seminars on critical race theory. And he told Treasury employees essentially that America was a fundamentally white supremacist country. And I quote, virtually all white people uphold the system of racism and white superiority, and was essentially denouncing the country and asking white employees at the Treasury Department and affiliated organizations to accept their white privilege, accept their white racial superiority, and accept essentially all of the baggage that comes with this reducible essence of whiteness.
The Treasury Department is tasked with ensuring the financial security of the United States, and they're having white privilege seminars. Apparently, in the seminars, white staffers are instructed to keep silent and sit in discomfort of their racism while black staffers explain their pain. White staffers are told that they can't protest if a person of color becomes too rash or too mean. If they do protest, then they're racists. And the problem doesn't stop there. It even got to the FBI. Watch.
Story that the FBI is now holding weekly seminars on intersectionality, which is a hard left academic theory that reduces people to a network of racial, gender, and sexual orientation identities that intersect in complex ways and determine whether you are an oppressor or oppressed. Obviously, with the white straight male, such as FBI Director Christopher Wray, being at the top of this pyramid of evil, that critical race theorists at the Sandia National Laboratories, which creates our nuclear weapons arsenal, sent their white male executives on a 3-day re-education camp to deconstruct their white male culture and actually force them to write letters of apology to women and people of color. Whistleblowers within Sandia National Laboratories have now spoken out, but laboratory executives have dispatched counterintelligence teams to quickly erase their communications, silence, and shut them down.
Sandia National Laboratories, one of the nation's top nuclear weapon facilities, is forcing employees into retreats to acknowledge their white privilege. They make nuclear weapons. Ay, ay, ay. I'm going to read something for you and then you try to guess where it comes from. Black people are less likely than white people to be self-reliant. Black people are less likely to emphasize rational, linear, and quantitative thinking. They are less likely to think hard work is the key to success. They believe in punctuality less and instant gratification more than whites do. Black people aren't as likely to believe in a Christian God and more inclined to be tolerant of pagan or polytheistic religions. Okay, now you've heard it. Where do you think that comes from? Comment down below. Sounds like the KKK, right? Or some type of white nationalist group. That's what I thought when I read it. But actually, it comes from the Smithsonian. More specifically, it comes from the National Museum of African American History and Culture. I know, it's hard to believe. Even worse is this chart that they tweeted. And let me state that this is real. I'm not making this up. I don't believe these things. This is what the National Museum of African American History and Culture tweeted. Let's go through this chart because it's unbelievably racist. All of these things they claim are whiteness. If the individual is self-reliant, that's whiteness. If the individual wants a nuclear family, father, mother, 2.3 children, that's whiteness. If a husband is the breadwinner and the head of the household, that's whiteness. The family structure is whiteness. If you emphasize on the scientific method, that's whiteness. History, whiteness, because it's based on Northern European immigrants' experience in the United States. If you think that hard work is the key to success, then you're a white supremacist. If you work before you play, then you're a white supremacist. If you think that anything other than Judeo-Christian traditions is foreign, that's whiteness. If you respect authority, that's whiteness. If you plan for the future, that's whiteness. If you think progress is always best, that's whiteness. If you follow schedules, that's whiteness. And it goes on like that, but I don't want to read anymore. I got too much racism on me. This museum gets $33 million in federal funding every year, and it spouts out this racist nonsense. I mean, it's so racist, it's unbelievable. And they get $33 million a year, just federal. But that might stop. Last week's reporting, as I mentioned before, came to the attention of Donald Trump and his administration, and they began investigating everything. They say that they're going to cut the federal funding of any agency that keeps promulgating this nonsense, and all the federal agencies must cease immediately to spend taxpayer money on this, which, by the way, has been costing millions and millions of dollars over the years. On Friday, the Trump administration put out a memo explaining what's going to happen. I'm going to read you the end and the beginning and the end. But I encourage you to read the whole thing because it's quite short. It has come to the president's attention that executive branch agencies have spent millions of taxpayer dollars to date training government workers to believe divisive anti-American propaganda. For example, according to press reports, employees across the executive branch have been required to attend trainings where they are told that virtually all white people contribute to racism, or where they are required to say that they benefit from racism. According to press reports, in some cases, these trainings have further claimed that there is racism embedded in the belief that America is a land of opportunity or the belief that the most qualified person should receive a job. It ends like this. The president and his administration are fully committed to the fair and equal treatment of all individuals in the United States. The president has a proven track record of standing for those whose voice has long been ignored and who have failed to benefit from all our country has to offer, and he intends to continue to support all Americans regardless of faith, of race, religion, or creed. The divisive, false, and demeaning propaganda of the critical race theory movement is contrary to all we stand for as Americans and should have no place in the federal government. When I noticed critical race theory and identity politics taking a hold of American society, it scared me. When I saw that the 1619 Project won a Pulitzer Prize, even though it was forced to make corrections due to criticism from historians, it scared me. When I see teachers eager to teach the 1619 Project in their classrooms, I'm dumbfounded. When I see that the people that make our nuclear weapons have white privilege retreats, I don't get it. All of these things that I mentioned are some of the things that pushed me away from the left. And now, it seems like Trump might just fix all of them. He might just make me a Democrat again. Let me leave you with a little thought experiment that destroys critical race theory, because it shows how racist it is that they will find racism anywhere, no matter what to do. You're a store owner and two people come into your shop, a black person and a white person. Who do you service first? Easy. If you service the white person first, clearly you're a white supremacist, because you think that white people should go first and they should have priority. If you service the black person first, clearly you're a white supremacist, because you don't want the black person to be around your store unattended. Therefore, no matter what you do, you're a white supremacist or a racist. That's critical race theory, and that's why it's flawed, because everything is racist no matter what. They find racism everywhere. It's the only thing that counts. Racism, your skin. That's how they judge every situation, and that is, in fact, racist. So what do you think? Is critical race theory critically flawed? Is it a good thing? Comment down below. Like, subscribe. Ginger out.